Welcome to NAMM 2009, pre-NAMM training. I'm Giles Orford from Focusrite, and we're here with Brian Hubbard, and we're going to get very technical and talk about the liquid channel in live sound, because I understand, Brian, you have a couple of them.
Yes, I do. I have 2 of them, and I wish I had 8.
So tell me a little bit about how you use the liquid channels, and well, let's start with who you work with and how they matter in each session.
I've used it with NERD, with Pharrell Williams. Just used one there, although there's 2 main artists, and I really wanted to use it with the other artists as well, with Shay, because of his vocal parts. I've used it with Gladys Knight, Vanessa Williams. I've used it with Xzibit, with 50 Cent. I've used it with, you know, people that you haven't heard of. I've used it on some pastors that actually have TV shows on BET. One of them was Noel Bishop Jones, and even in the speaking voice, it made a tremendous difference.
So the interesting thing with live sound is a lot of live engineers don't really believe in investing too much money in preamps, and they'll think that what they've got in front of them will do, and it won't make a big difference. What do you say to that?
Well, I think that's a fallacy. I think you can't use this liquid channel on a substandard system. I've tried that. I found out you're as good as your weakest link. This product is so good it will expose all deficiencies. So if you have a good PA, it is awesome, and I believe it can be something that will make or break a show. I've actually had every single person I've used it for, either the artist themselves or somebody representing them, have come back and asked me what I have on that vocal. Every single time.
When you go through the mic pre-emulations and the compressor emulations, is there a favorite of yours? Is there a favorite mic pre, favorite compressor?
Yes, there is. I might as well tell you. I use the Manly Slam and the Distressor, one of the Distressor combinations. And then it's a matter of tweaking for that particular voice. There's a couple of others I've used. There's a Neve program in there that I've used as well. It really depends on the texture of the voice and the dynamics of the voice. And there's a few different ones that I like, but I've used that Manly Slam Distressor combination more than anything else.
Well, that's another interesting point. How do you make that decision? How do you go through the auditioning process? Is it luck, or do you have a process?
Initially it might have been, well, I don't want to say luck, because I kind of looked at what was in there and what, a Manly Slam is highly regarded. A Distressor by itself is highly regarded. So I automatically figured I couldn't lose by trying that. And then it was experimentation initially. There's even some tricks to where using it line level versus using it mic level, depending on what kind of console you have. There are some tricks with that. There's so much flexibility with it. When you start playing with the harmonics, what it does with one voice versus the next. When you, if you use a lot of compression, what that can do. If you open it up, and let's say you take the vocal where it may be +5 before your compression starts to kick in. It really just depends. When you're using it with hip-hop, there's some things you're going to do a little bit differently than if you use it for a singing vocalist. Like Gladys Knight, for example, could put the mic 2 feet away from her almost, as long as she could stretch her arm away, and you could still have vocal presence like you have right now with this mic.
Other than advising someone to buy a liquid channel, I'm looking for some top tips that you could give budding live engineers out there. And the question is, how do you make the main vocal cut through?
Just turn it on. I mean, it's that simple. If you, let's say you have a good console, and which you should, it really, as soon as you get signal, I'm telling you, it is the easiest thing in the world. It just, 9 times out of 10, you're going to back it down. There's an artist, or I might as well tell you, Fantasia, for example. She's one of the artists where if you normally start your gain, let's say a regular 58 at 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock, by the 3rd song, you will be down on the gain pot at 9 o'clock. She's that type of vocalist. Well, this thing has some kind of magic where it does that as well. You will have maybe very little signal that you see on the liquid channel, but what you see on the output is tremendous. So it has an incredible amount of headroom which is, you know, I mentioned this on the video before about the reverb, and that has happened so many times where with the vocalists, people have come up to me and said, what kind of reverb are you using, or what program are you using? They might know what reverb's in there. So, well, actually, I'm using the same thing on all these other mics, but this is the one that where the action is, because it just does something, you know, some magic to it. It ought to be called the magic box.
So it's the mic pre that makes the difference.
Definitely.
So this has been Giles Orford talking to Brian Hubbard at the pre-NAMM training, NAMM 2009.